It's nice and cool in here. Keep everybody awake, right?
I got to let Coach Duffy open up with a statement. Thank you.
Happy March Madness, happy spring football. It's really exciting with all of our spring sports going, football getting geared up for their little mini season, and then for us in postseason, just a great time here in Blacksburg to build some momentum, and couldn't be more thrilled to be still playing in March with our team, and we're looking forward to our game coming up on Thursday versus North Carolina A&T. Hi, Mark.
When we watched the selection show Sunday night, were you surprised or disappointed or mad?
I think we were disappointed. Obviously, I think we had a small chance to get in. There was, last 3 weeks of the season, we were in and out of that bubble area, and a little bit at that point, you're watching games and leaving it up to the selection committee. One of the things we talked about 3 weeks ago was we're not going to make excuses. We're going to own our season and the great victories with it, some of the mistakes we made along the way. And with us building our program from the first year, you want to really pull out those positives. And would we love to be dancing in our first year? Absolutely. But I think there's some great value and momentum into continuing to be able to practice with your team and get some game experience in March. It's such a unique time of year when you're one and done, and there's a little bit more added pressure. So I think while we were disappointed not to hear our name, we understood the process, and I think we had a committee that was doing everything in their power to do the right thing and put the best teams in the field. And we were taking that accountability with whatever happened. We were going to be ready to move forward into the WBIT or obviously to the NCAA tournament. I actually didn't look too much into what was said in the media or the committee. They got some great people on that committee that do an awesome job, and I think we couldn't spend too much time dwelling on the decision. Our coaching staff went to work immediately. The WBIT bracket came out, and we went scouting and downloading games and dividing and conquering to get our team ready to go. I've learned a lot from this year, and a little bit, is about how you approach, summertime all the way to the end of the season. It's always been a goal in postseason to play your best basketball in that February and March, and putting together with our young players that mindset of what it looks like and what you have to do to be successful. And even next year, every year is going to look a little different. So there's been so many lessons. I don't think I've probably gone into too much reflection other than every day, every week, we're trying to have real candid conversations about how to get better, how to improve, how to counter something that's happening. And very much it's a life lesson for all these kids. And then, as a coaching staff, we're really excited about continuing to learn from those things and keep moving on. I think we had some great conversations and some great practices even after the ACC tournament, where it was about what do we want this next 2 weeks to look like before we had the opportunity to play again. And, we couldn't control anything about where we were selected or where we were going, but we could control our attitudes, our mindset to get better. We had a great couple practices with it being spring break here. I got to give the girls some time to either go home or just, kind of relax here in town and really refresh their minds for this next big push. So that was valuable just to be able to spend extra time with them. And then, our mindset moving forward, regardless if we knew we were going or the after, the Sunday evening was to have really good quality practices, work on ourselves a little bit too, whether that was, offensively, being a little sharper. We had some, little scoring droughts throughout some games, over the course of the last few weeks. So really trying to figure out what it looks like to get out of those droughts, and then even defensively, some different things we can do. So I know the kids always want to play games. The coaches love the practice part. So we tried to find that happy median with continuing to push. And I'm just really proud of them for just, it's a long season with basketball. I mean, some seasons are in the fall or in the spring. Our season is incredibly long. And, looking back to, that May, June time when we were all getting going to now, it's been it's been long in a lot of ways, but it also flies by. So trying to find that mix and balance, and it's been great to coach these young women.
For such a young team in so many ways, how valuable can this stretch be for them, both practices and the games?
Yeah, I know even our opponent, North Carolina A&T, they had a tough, I would say, maybe upset in their conference tournament, and so they obviously had a great regular season, and so this is a really good team that's coming in Thursday. So we have to approach it like we've tried to approach ACC play, but everybody's really good, and then you throw in the one and done. And so what I'm looking for, especially this week, is just to show some growth from that Georgia Tech game and just being a little bit more settled in. Obviously, we have the advantage of playing at home in front of our crowd and getting Hokie Nation out to see us at least one more time. And I think there's a mindset of we want to win the tournament, but at the same time, our success has been really taking it, a couple days here at a time and then try and execute on that game. But, to have young players in these new roles, and even, somebody like Matilda and Rose who are seniors, they want to finish the right way. They have a lot of basketball ahead of them in their future as pros, and just garnering this experience is critical for our entire program.
Coach, can you scout North Carolina A&T for me and what you guys expect on Thursday?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Sunday night, as soon as you know who you're playing, it's almost all-nighters. I always joke, like I never had to pull an all-nighter in college. And then when you get to be a coach, there's some weird, crazy hours, and we were in our war room dividing and conquering, and, you're talking 4 in the morning, 2 in the morning with just trying to figure out the game plan. And one of the things about Terrell's team, just very well coached. He's a great man. Like, he's had a lot of success with this program. He goes out and he's not afraid to play people. So even in their non-conference, he goes out and plays some really, really good opponents. They're tough and hard-nosed, for, maybe, a program that's, that mid-major level. Sometimes you'll see some smaller size kids. They're big. They got a 6'4" kid inside. Their guards have good strength and size. And so physically we're going to get challenged. They're known for their defense. He switches up a lot of different things to kind of keep you off balance. And then similar to us, I think they have a really good balanced attack. So all 5 people on the floor for us are going to have to defend and make sure we're ready to go with great energy in our building.
When the committee chairman chairperson was answering me on Sunday, one of the things she mentioned, aside from the quad 1, quad 2 record, or the record in the last 10 games, or the Syracuse game, she mentioned the non-conference strength of schedule. Is that something that you will kind of actively try to improve upon, or do you feel your non-conference strength of schedule was fine the way it is? What's kind of your thoughts regarding the future and the non-conference?
Yeah, I talked about this, I think, back in the fall. When you take over for the first time, some games are already in place, and so you're locked into a contract for another year, even moving forward into next year. And then some of you have the opportunity to, obviously select your games and your MTEs. And I think what's interesting with, springtime, rosters are changing. You honestly don't always know what your team's going to look like next year. And sometimes scheduling is done before you even know what your team is like, let alone getting a new head coach. So, yeah, we're going to look at all the facets of what it takes to be a tournament team. Obviously, having our players return is really, really important. And that's when that committee gets in. There's a lot of different factors. I think there's maybe 11 of them. And I think the big thing is having that balance with non-conference of getting wins. Teams that are going to set you up for ACC play, and then that grind of ACC is something different, just as a lot of the P4 conferences are going through. So you have to find that balance of, finding, that non-conference, strength, and then also finding confidence with your young team. And every year will look a little bit different for us, and it's actually, with everything going on in our business and our world, scheduling is actually happening kind of a little bit slower because people are still figuring out who you're going to have so you can make educated decisions, which I always think about, being here in the football space right now. You got games years in advance, and the rosters are constantly changing. So it's another reason, an example of how it's challenging for all of us coaches to figure out that perfect formula. But I do know we're always trying to learn and, get feedback. And that's something that I'll do a little bit more once we're done playing. Right now, my job is to lock into our women and getting ready for Thursday. But I do like some of the analytics of it. I like, hearing opinions. But in the moment of what we have to do, I need to stay focused on getting our team better.
You mentioned the grind. Given your record in the last 10 games, how do you feel the team handle that grind and especially now that you have more games to play, how do you feel they will kind of handle that going forward?
Yeah, I mean, moving forward, we got the rest. Spring break really helped us. We had every opportunity to win some of those games down the stretch. You look at the 2 overtime games. You look at even, Syracuse when Rose was out. We were still trying to kind of figure out what that looked like. And again, you're splitting hairs, 1 possession, 2 possession, make a free throw, catch the ball, and it's a different maybe outcome this week. So. Again, like you can dwell on it and focus on it. I think what's great about our team, we've been able to speak on it, not be afraid to own what we've done, and that's why you're not going to hear me rip another conference or another coaching staff or another program. We're here to speak positively about Virginia Tech, and I'm so proud of our team, and I hope we'll be really excited and thrilled to play on Thursday.
With players already planning to enter the transfer portal, how do you balance playing in March along with preparing for the offseason and the transfer portal opening up?
Yeah, it's a really interesting world and dynamic, even a little bit even different than last year. So, we're just trying to open up lines of communication, find that balance of staying focused on, our team in preparation. And like anything else, whether it's the portal or, it's another issue or concern any one of our players or our families have, we want to be open to all of that. But it's an interesting juggling match right now. And, there's already a phase of the portal that's opened up for women's basketball with grad kids and coaching changes. And then, this time next week, a week from today, the portal for undergrads will open up. And, yeah, we're all trying to find that balance to stay focused and what's important, but also understand there's a business side. And I wish I could tell you the perfect formula with it all, but we're, I think, learning and growing every day with it.
Brian, any questions on Zoom?
Go ahead, Connor.
Connor Arthur, Virginia Tech Television. Coach, first of all, congratulations on your invitation to the WBIT. Very exciting for the team. I just wanted to ask, since the ACC tournament, it didn't really go as planned, but is there a lesson that you kind of took away from that game that you're hoping will be applied to help bounce back in the Invitational?
Well, I think I mentioned a few minutes ago, I think the rest has really helped us of just being able to step away for a few days over the spring break and, find that balance of working on ourselves. And then now we're preparing for A&T. I think the other thing that's been fun in a positive way, like we chose to watch the selection show together, and it's okay to feel disappointment sometimes in life and kind of use that as a chip on your shoulder or fuel, and whether that's for games this week or, moving on into an off season. So I've loved the opportunity to be open about what March Madness means and, the ability to watch games and see what, there's some really, really amazing women athletes right now, especially in our game, who are talking about what it means to be a dog and stepping up in March and just that feeling of nothing better. You got St. Patrick's Day and March Madness and all the things colliding to, just really understand. So it hasn't been like a weird thing that we're like, we don't want to talk about it or we're nervous. It's like, let's go see what it's about. And let's, obviously get our seniors, in a good space going in their last few games, and then let's build some momentum. So I've enjoyed the part as a college basketball coach. There's nothing better than the madness of this time of month because anything can happen, upsets are brewing, and even we understand that this week. Like when you play A&T, who's hungry, who had a tough last game themselves, as we did, sometimes it's a matter of will and your focus to get the job done.
Any more questions on Zoom for Coach Duffy? Back to you, Carter.
This is a little bit of a different tangent, but last time we saw Samaya, she's not in a sling anymore. I was just wondering if you could kind of provide an update on how her progress is going. And when she suffered her injury, you talked about having her as a coach still. Mm-hmm. What's it been like having her still around and involved for you guys?
Samaya's making some great progress. Obviously, she had season-ending shoulder surgery. And so obviously the first little bit of that time is tough. She's in a sling. We have to keep her away from all the action on the sideline. But yeah, she's feeling better. We're progressing really, really well. Obviously we missed her a ton this year with her speed and athleticism with what she did in non-conference, and you could see her just kind of grow into each game. And one of her best games. I think it was maybe her second to last game, if I can remember back that far, where it was the Duke game. And she just made a little run herself. And so we're excited to get her back. We still got a little ways to go with the rehab, but the fact that she's out of the sling and, starting to progress with her rehab a little bit more is a really good sign.
You mentioned watching the selection show with the players. What was their reaction to the disappointment?
Yeah, I mean, we were disappointed, but we also knew coming in that no matter what happened, we were going to be obviously, extremely pumped up if we heard our names, and then we were ready to, approach the next day with practice, and I think they handled it really, really well. We had off yesterday, and then we got after it today with our practice, and it was good. They were focused, excited about having an opponent probably now again versus, just practicing and working on ourselves. So overall, it was, what I expected, and we feel good going into the week.
Yeah, so often in with these type of tournaments, the bubble teams that men or women that are deflated, that don't get in. Sometimes they're not enthused enough about what tournament they are in, and they lose first round because they're just not into it as their opponent. Can you tell? Have you got a sense of the enthusiasm level, the excitement level? If your players are into it, into the WBIT.
I think we talked even weeks ago. Whatever happens, we were going to be ready, and for us, yeah, it's going to be important to be focused. But I think when you look at the teams in the WBIT, they're good. It's some of the one big conferences that if you had a slip up in your conference tournament in the 3 days or 4 days, you don't get into the big dance, but now you're ready to make some noise. So there's some really good quality teams. Obviously, even seeding I don't think really matters too much in this type of tournament. It's, it's a bit matchups and travel. And, now on the women's side, it used to be a different tournament where there were 64 teams. Now there's 32 really good quality opponents. So we're going to be focused, and for me, we'll see once that ball goes up on the tip if they're ready to go. But we're not preparing any differently. We're working extremely hard, and they looked good at least today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you staying.